Hello everyone, it's Old Gamer Joe back with another review here on Media Moogle, and today we're taking a look at Eqqo, which was released on the Nintendo Switch just as of February 7th, 2020. This is a game that's actually in a lot of different languages, so it's very friendly in that regard. English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, German, Italian, Russian, Finnish, pretty much you name it, it's there. So this is a very inclusive game, not only in regards to the languages that it's available in, but in the overall arcing message of the storyline. The game was developed by Parallel Studios and actually has a pretty good pedigree of talent behind it that includes Ubisoft members, Don't Nod Entertainment, and Quantic Dream. It is heavily inspired by Ethiopian legend, but you don't actually play as Eqqo in this game, rather a cursor that appears on screen representing his mother. This cursor is used to click about environments, solve different light puzzles that are presented to you throughout the game, and guide Eqqo through his journey while he carries an egg, which is said to be vital to life and that the dark forces want to get for themselves. Eqqo is blind, so it becomes very important to have his mother there, as she will guide him along with narration as well, which can be helpful in solving some of the game's various puzzles. It is a game that was originally designed for VR devices, so in that regard, the port doesn't necessarily hit on every stride when going over to the Switch, because the mechanics of the Switch are obviously quite different versus using a VR headset. I initially started playing with a Switch Pro controller, which presents its issues and challenges mainly with not the puzzles themselves, but the camera of this game, which I found to be very wonky and almost disjointed at times, because in this game you can select from various angles to solve the different puzzles from, but it never feels smooth or intuitive, and I found myself really just wanting to take control of Eqqo himself at many points in the game, which I ultimately feel like would have made things much easier versus clicking around this environment, which is very frustrating. The puzzles themselves are not necessarily difficult, but the battle with the controls in that particular mode were so frustrating that it made the puzzles harder than they should have been. And so I tried switching to the undocked mode, playing the game handheld, which is a slightly better experience because you can rotate the system around and see the room more clearly, but it's still not perfect and the camera is still wonky, so either way you play the game, you're going to feel like this was a game that was meant to be played in VR and has been ported to a console that obviously is not, so that aspect of the game left me a little bit frustrated. It's not broken or unplayable by any means, but I do feel like this version of the game would have been better serviced with some hands-on control for Eqqo himself. This game graphically for me reminded me a lot of Fumito Ueda's work in Shadow of the Colossus or Eqqo. Both thematically and graphically, actually, this game seems to be pretty heavily inspired by it, even down to the enemies in this game, which appear as dark beings of sort that will try to steal the egg. And the way that the story, narration, and graphics all present themselves throughout this short 4 to 5 hour experience really reminded me of that series, and that's definitely not a bad thing if you are a fan of those games, which I happen to be. So it's an art style that I was able to appreciate, but if you're not a fan of those games, then you're probably not going to like the look and feel of this game either. One of my favorite aspects of Eqqo actually became the soundtrack, which was performed by the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. It is beautiful and heartfelt, hits at all of the right moments, and goes along quite nicely with the thematic elements of this game, which are hope, love, despair, just to name a few, but really this is a game about the fragility and preciousness of life, and I thought that the beautiful music accompanied that theme quite well. My experience with Eqqo on the Switch made me want to actually go and check out the VR version of the game, because I feel like the immersion VR allows a player to experience would really work well for this game, and probably did. Unfortunately, I've never played that version. But looking at this solely as a game that is available on Switch, unfortunately some control design issues hold it back from being an excellent experience, but it is still a game worth your time. So while Eqqo can be a frustrating experience due to a very janky camera and some oddball control mechanics, the interesting culture, art design, and well thought out story of the game still make it a worthwhile experience, The inspiring messages of the game make it worth your time, and it is only $6 on the Switch, so I recommend checking it out if any of the Eqqo or Shadow of Colossus games spoke to you in a meaningful way. Frustrating at times, yes, but those frustrations can be somewhat forgiven by such a heartfelt story. For more on Eqqo and all of our other content, please head on over to MediaMoogle.net, and if you have enjoyed our video content today, please do hit that subscribe button below. It helps us so much. Thank you for your time and your support of Media Moogle's content.